G'day guys and gal. Whatever your perspective or opinion is regarding how much you like or dislike the Tau, it's no secret that the Imperium is more than capable of wiping them out. The Imperium is much larger, has a way bigger military, and often smacks around the Tau pretty hard during their various wars and skirmishes. As the Tau are technically enemies of mankind due to their crime of existing as a Xeno, it does beg the question, why not just wipe them out? After all, the Tau are becoming increasingly powerful and may soon become too powerful for the Imperium to take on, so why delay? Before we get started, my eyes are up here. Although I can't blame you for checking out this dope as fuck Majorkill merch. The merch drop is only around for 4 more days. Before it's gone for good, it's our biggest launch to date, with 3 awesome designs, including the last stand of the Ancient of Rites, a homage to my favorite quote and character, a quote I literally have tattooed on my shoulder, as well as the last words of one of the greatest legends to ever exist. You can pick these up in both singlet or t-shirt depending what your vibe is. But wait, there's more. We still have about 50 G'day Fuckhead bathrobes for sale, so this will probably be the last chance to get one. They're comfy as hell, make you feel like a royal, and will give whoever sees it a cheeky smile. Finally, we also have the iconic hoodie to represent the merch drop with a minimalistic symbol of each of the main designs embroidered on the sleeve. The breast of the hoodie is also embroidered, as embroidery is by far the most aesthetic way to add typography to clothes. It also never fades, which is dope. Only a few more days, guys and gal, and as usual, all of these designs are one-offs. This merch drop will never be repeated. Link is below. A massive thank you to the people that have already bought and supported. It means a lot. Today we'll go over the reasons why the Imperium hasn't just crushed their upstart neighbor, as well as the times where the Imperium has actually tried and clearly failed. We can also suss why the other races haven't wiped out the Tau either. Also, a quick shout out to the amazing Alex Christie for the thumbnail artwork I commissioned for this video. Once again, he knocked it out of the park. Full res version is free on my Patreon. Let's get into it. The rise of the Tau has been pretty astronomical. A lot of their tech is notably more advanced than Imperial, Eldar, and even on some level, Necron tech. This is because unlike every other race in the galaxy, the Tau are actually on the rise. They have not stagnated or fallen from grace like literally everyone else, as they haven't been burnt from their own hubris. Yet. Hence, the best time to kill the Tau is when they were a bunch of primitive bovine plane wanderers, and the next best time is now. Before we get into why the Tau Empire has been allowed to continue its existence, let's first look at the conflicts between the Imperium and the Tau and see how those went. The Tau became known to the Imperium when they began attempting to diplomatically assimilate the world's bordering Tau space. The Tau had no idea just how big of a bear the Imperium was, with some of their commanders wanting to crush them militarily, whilst others believed they could assimilate the Imperium of Man into the Tau Empire. Damn, those Tau were cute. They slowly but surely influenced these border worlds that were so far away from main Imperial space that they barely felt a connection to Terra, and the Tau were able to become the de facto rulers of them. This was a huge no-no for the Imperium. Losing worlds to Xeno invasion was one thing, but having worlds declare independence due to Xeno influence was a whole nother kettle of horse shit. With unusual speed, the Imperium amassed an army involving a shitload of guardsmen regiments as well as a few hundred space marines, and sent them over to begin the Damocles Gulf Crusade. The Tau were unprepared for the fury of the Imperium, especially the Space Marines, who would go on to massacre Tau armies. The Tau were especially shocked that the Imperial ships would aim to get in extremely close and unleash broadside batteries, a technique that was so primitive and alien to the Tau that they didn't actually have a counter for it. See, for them, space warfare was something that you did from thousands of kilometers away from each other, shooting long-range torpedoes and lasers. It didn't involve fucking 16th century broadside techniques, boarding actions, or ramming. Likewise, the Imperials were shocked that the Tau didn't have broadsides. From here, the Imperium retook or cleansed world after world, including worlds that had never been under Imperial control in the first place. The Imperium's ruthless genocidal tactics, combined with orbitable bombardments, made short work of Tau colonies. To their credit, the Tau began to quickly adapt and began performing better against the Imperial fleet. However, they were still outmatched and losing the war. The war peaked with a huge ground invasion of the Tau's most populated world encountered so far. It involved Titans, Space Marines, battlesuits, Kroot, the whole shebang. The war was pretty epic, and it actually made the Space Marines respect the shit out of the Tau for their tenacity and adaptability in combat. Not too unlike the Ultramarines, they're both blue as well. Hence, when the Inquisition got salty and wanted to just exterminate us the world, the Imperial commanders refused. As the war was grinding to a stalemate, word came that a new threat called the Tyranids had arrived in the galaxy and were fucking shit up. Hence the Imperial forces withdrew after reaching a peace agreement with the Tau. So from first impression, a single relatively small Imperial fleet without reinforcements and without that many Space Marines was able to fuck up multiple Tau worlds and fleets, only withdrawing due to promised reinforcements never arriving and the Tyranids becoming a thing. Over time, the Tau would adapt and become significantly more militarized with way better tech that they would use to fight against the Imperium, but the first impression didn't look very good for them. There would be other conflicts, most notably during the Third Sphere expansion, where Commander Shadow Sun herself would take on the Imperium's forces, even slaying the chapter master of the Raven Guard. But once again, this was like a spittle of cum compared to the might of the Imperium's armies, with only a few hundred White Scars and Raven Guard alongside other Imperial army elements facing off against the full might of the Tau Empire. Sure, the Tau did win more than they lost this time round, but it was a close run thing and a shitload of them died. Once again proving that while they put on a good show, the Tau was seriously punching above their weight, and if the Imperium was to send a serious armada with a number of full chapters, elite regiments and titans, then the Tau would be pretty fucked. So why don't they? After all, the Imperium has sent huge forces against significantly stupider targets. I mean, the Abyssal Crusade was made up of thousands of Space Marines, and it was the fucking dumbest shit ever. It really comes down to two things. A, the Imperium is low-key allied to the Tau Empire, and B, there are much bigger fish to fry with the effort required to wipe out the Tau not being worth it at all. Allow me to elaborate. The Tau are in the corner of the galaxy, away from Imperial space and not threatening any key worlds. All the worlds bordering the Tau Empire are backwater who gives a fuck worlds, frontiers, not pillars of Imperial authority. On top of that, the Tau act as great exterminators for other threatening races. They kill a shitload of orcs and keep the local Necron dynasties busy, not to mention they are also highly effective against Tyranids. The best part is that the Tau is super diplomatic, with the Inquisition having hundreds of secret alliances and pacts with the Tau government. Overall, the Tau are just a straight up asset. If the Imperium was to steamroll them, suffering massive casualties in the process, and then try to recolonize the new worlds, more likely than not, Necron, Tyranid, Orc, and Dark Elder forces would rush in and massacre the weakened and overstretched Imperial forces, meaning the Imperium would need to send even more armies to garrison their new worlds. So they would basically be expending a lot of resources to wipe out a race of aliens that are doing all the heavy lifting for them. Something, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The second, and arguably more important aspect, is the fact that the Tau Empire only became known to the Imperium at a similar time to the arrival of the Tyranids, as well as the resurgence of the Traitor Legions, not to mention the rise of Gazkul and the awakening of the Necrons. The war for Armageddon had begun, Abaddon's Black Crusades began to heat up, and Ultramar was brought to the brink by High Fleet Behemoth. The Tau were just very low on the list of priorities. Since then, the Imperium hasn't had time to breathe. With the galaxy being cut in half by the Great Rift, a fuck-off huge Tyranid incursion, the return of the Silent King, and Gazkul being on the move with like 100 billion Orc warriors at his back, it just doesn't make sense. There would be absolutely zero logic to looking at all these threats and then deciding to commit a fuck-off huge armada full of thousands of the Imperium's best warriors to go attack the Tau. Doing so would leave countless worlds open to invasion as opposed to the Tau, who are mostly keeping to themselves. Sure, they do expand here and there, but with their warp travel capabilities being pretty mid, their version of expansion is a handful of worlds at a time. If the Tau Empire had appeared a few millennia prior, let's say maybe in the 38th millennium, then sure, the Imperium would have crushed them without issue, as at that time there were no Tyranids, Necrons, and hardly any chaos. It was mostly just the occasional skirmish with the weakened Orcs or Eldar. The Imperium could have thrown every Space Marine in the galaxy at the new Tau Empire without issue, but these days it's all hands on deck. Think of it like this, we still don't have a single scene of Guilliman even worrying about the Tau Empire because of how low on the list of problems they are. He is busy dealing with his demonic Primarch brothers and massive Tyranid hordes. So all up, it's not even remotely worth it to wipe out the Tau. Not only would that destroy an asset against the darkness, but it would cost so many resources and lead to the loss of countless Imperial worlds to other races that no longer had armies to defend them. Speaking of which, what about the other races? Could they take out the Tau? Sort of. The Tau are really far away from Chaos strongholds, with the one instance of them fighting the Death Guard going surprisingly well for the Tau, with their long-range weaponry being solid against the Death Guard's slow advance. Most Necron dynasties aren't really about mass expansion, more so just defending their lawns, so whilst there are battles here and there, it's just not an existential threat. Dark Elder just raid shit, and Cryfell see the Tau as an asset that can be used against the more evil races. The Leagues of Votann are allied with the Tau as well. Orcs love attacking the Tau, however they aren't coordinated enough to do any real damage, with most orcs now going to spicier war zones closer to the middle of the galaxy. Tyranids enjoy having a go at tower worlds, but the tower proving to be ingenious in their defense, coming up with bioweapons that can destroy entire Tyranid fleets. Here is the best way to describe it. If you have a wild hog running around and ruining your garden, as well as a spiky porcupine just sitting in the corner, keeping the hog away from its own area, are you going to go out and punch the porcupine or the hog? The tower, the porcupine. The hog is all the other shit. Punch the fucking hog. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up some Majorkill merch. There are only a few days left to pick up the singlets, t-shirts, hoodies, and bathrobes. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more Towie content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.